So, you were in this, you were passing through this village, and you stayed for a few minutes. How long did you stop? You say you had time to go into the church. How long were you stopped there?
I believe that was the same day when we came from our village of Pucari in afternoon, and we stayed overnight. I believe we stayed overnight in that, in that house of Basanic. And next day, if I can continue, next day we were forced to go towards Dubica.
How, when you say it was just your family or other families too?
Lots of many families,
yes.
Many families, and we came to Dubica. There's a canal, I call it canal, where there was prevention for the water from Una to flood us, and for some reason which I don't remember why, I don't know why, our wagons were going on that high ground.
Right.
And I was afraid because I can see on my right hand side there was nothing except the water, water, and I was afraid that we might go, we might fall down, that the cow, the oxen or horse wagon might fall down. And I can see on the other side a plain, different kind of trees and so on.
And so that in the morning you were told to keep going towards
Dubica, which was a bridge. It was a wooden bridge. Now there's of course different bridge, and there was two roads. One was coming from the center, and one was coming by the river Una. Exactly.
Right.
And as we were stopped because there was lots of people going on both sides. It was a slow pace, and as we were waiting to continue, the two Muslim men came from their houses on our left-hand side, came to the horse and says, "This is our horse." Yes. And of course my father came out, the brother was riding the horse. He turned his head, looked at the father, and the father came out and told them that we are taking the horse from our village. And then they said, they raised their voice and said, "This is our horse." And the father knew what it meant, asked brother to came down from the horse. They took the horse by this and took him to their home.
Right. You didn't know this man. These were.
No. I know they were Muslims because they're coming from the houses which were typical Muslims' homes,
right,
with the four, like a roof on the four side, black small houses. It was so we knew they were Muslims.
Right.
From
So there were
Dubica.
only in this village. There were Serbs and Muslims.
No, this. Sorry, excuse me. This was in Dubica, right here where we are now.
Right.
But in our villages there was no Muslims whatsoever.
Right. So the Muslims lived in town.
In town.
Were there any Croats living in town also?
Small part of Croats that I can understand.
Right. So they were mostly Serbs.
The total population, according to the census, 1938 or somewhere there was about 89% Serbs living in this town, if I can. I mean, in the whole area,
right,
villages around. So there was only approximately, if I can say, 10%, slightly more of the Muslims and the Croats.
Right. So your brother got off the horse, and they took it away, and your brother got on the cart or walked along, whichever.
Yes.
And that was the first moment when you realized there was a problem. They were against you.
Well, we knew they were against us, but we didn't know that they have such a power, because we were surrounded by the Ustashi, soldiers, and of course, you were not free. They could have done whatever they wanted.
All right. So you kept going.
We kept going. We crossed a bridge on the river Una. It was a wooden bridge with, like damage on the floor and so on. And I remember seeing about 5 mills on the left-hand side when we were going to Hrvatska Dubica, which is the village over here. And I was, surprised at how that many mills can be, big river, which I see the first time, different story. Then we came to the village of Cerovljani, which was also, a railway station called Dubica. And then we went to the area. There was a huge area covered with people came before us, horses, cows, oxen. All of this was mixed up. We were there together, and they were. Sorry, go ahead.
Can I ask you, going back, you mentioned the partisans. You mentioned your father bringing some meat to the partisans up in the mountains, I guess.
Yes.
When did these partisans were basically Serbs, I presume?
Yes.
Or were there
yes.
also Muslims amongst them then? Were there?
Well, if I could say there was maybe a few of them, perhaps, I don't know, but there was mostly Serbs because they were fighting, to survive.
Right. Now when did the partisans first appear? I suppose that were they wearing uniforms or not? Were they at that time?
Not much of the uniforms. If I can go back and remember that 14th of January 1942, before that they were together. There was no separation between partisans and Chetniks. They were fighting together, defending.
They were just,
yes.
They were no uniforms?
Not that I remember. They were only carrying, having the caps, like with a tree rug, tree kind of, higher,
right.
like going like this. But something that makes me wonder. On the same day, there was the massacre in Dračanić.
Right.
They were, the soldiers defending us. They were recalled to leave the front against the UNAS and so on, and came to our village on the same day where we celebrate 7 days after the Christmas. It's called Mali Božić. And that day, I found, like later on, the same day, they made the separation who was going to be in partisans and who is not going into the partisans. And I believe strongly that somebody must have told Ustashi about that, because it is a strange, coincidence where the Ustashi came in the morning of 14th to massacre the people there, and there was no defendants. You understand? I'm trying to say, but nobody is saying that later or now for whatever reason. But I strongly believe that the Ustashi were advised about that.
Right. Well, they had spies.
Spies, and so yeah.
So there was fighting. There was some fighting then between partisans and Ustashas, and also between partisans, between the Chetniks and Ustashas. They were The two were one, the partisans and the Chetniks were basically the same until then.
Exactly. And from that day, there was only one or two men. One is called Stanar. I don't remember his, first name. Who was he was the king's soldiers, and he wanted to stay, not to go to the partisans.
Right.
However, I have a record from the fellow who is older than me, called Vasily Babić, sorry, that said that same fellow, the Stanisic, was executed by somebody that evening, as he was walking to his home. So you can see that there was, in my view, a conspiracy, so that he was, killed, so there was no more Chetniks in the area.
Right. So he was murdered.
Murdered, exactly, yeah.
All right. So now we are back in
the village of Cerovljani.
Yeah.
Sorry
There's
to.
a big crowd, and there is hundreds and hundreds of cars, I imagine, and it's. Remind me again the time of the year.
There was July,
So it was hot.
13th or 14th of July that we were there. It was terrible hot. The people were bringing something from home, trying to make a meal, and drink the water and so on and go on, and surrounded by Ustashi, and with the freedom to do whatever they wanted to do. I remember my mother, Yela, went to get some wood from the, like a little bit of wood from the forest. First time she succeeded and came and tried to make a fire to cook something from us. The second time when she went out, she came back afraid because she saw the man, with his head, smashed, and then also saw the younger woman. She was completely, she was almost bare here because they were going to, rape her.
Right.
After that, the mother never went back to the little forest.
And that was July. July, what day was it?
About the 13th, like 14th or 1942.
And then what happened?
And then, immediately as we came to that place, Cerovljani, they separated men and the younger boys immediately from us. They were to our left, and they were sitting, looking at the sun, like in rows, large rows. We could see them, but we couldn't go to them, and then they couldn't come to us, I'm sorry. One incident that I forgot to mention to you, there were, Serbian traitors that we know exactly who were pointing out on the bridge, that they were crossing the bridge, pointing out they were partisans, but they changed their position. So they were pointing out who the partisans were, who were not wearing the uniform, but they were like ordinary clothes. And then that same man, he came to the Cerovljani, and they asked the man there to turn, to sit against, like the back, against the back of each other, like this. And he was going on the front, that Milovan was going on the front of the German and the Ustashi officer, pointing out who was the partisan. Yes, sir. And as soon as you pointed out, he was, that person was touched by the, with that piece of, wood, by that, and then he would go up and go to a separate sort of, separately. When you went to all of these sitting people there, some of the women sitting, oh, he had done this, he had, recognized that fellow, this and that. And as soon as they did, they were formed into two, they were marching back to Dubica. And what I remember exactly was, because there was no asphalt then, there was no stone. So the dirt there was a big dust after them that I remember. Maybe, I don't know how many hours later, the news came that they were all killed here in the graveyard in Dubica. Only one or two jumped from the bridge to the river to the river Una, and one of them apparently escaped. And in my child's mind, it was a kind of that somebody, we are not completely defeated. Somebody is going to, escape.